Making videos based on opinions is a ton of fun, but with the territory comes a lot of people that agree and disagree. If I just said things that everyone agrees on, it would be extremely boring. So I love to pick interesting topics, do my research, and try to get my points across. All that being said, I'm about to piss off a lot of people, especially the electric fans from Pittsburgh who swing those towels around and have historically one of the best franchises in the NFL's history. But in today's video, I want to cover why I think the fans might be turning those towels with a little less pride this season, and why the Steelers will fall from their very impressive 12-4 season and being the division champs last year to not even making the playoffs in 2021. Let's start out with the positive side of the Steelers. Last year, they started with a league's best 11-0 record. While dominating some teams, or when the games were close, they just always found a way to win. They had a classic Steelers defense that was dominant in almost every category. They obviously had TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Devin Bush holding down the fort, but they also had a fantastic supporting cast to round out one of, if not the best defenses of the 2020 season. Chase Claypool emerged as a great young receiver with a great mix of size and speed. They were able to sign Juju again for the 2021 season, and fans will be back in 2021, and very few stadiums in front of the Steelers that will have more an advantage for their home games. So there are all the positives. That being said, we need to get into the concept of today's video, and that is I have a lot of concerns the more and more I've looked into the Steelers. First, going back to last season, they started 11-0, but things turned around. They ended up 12-4, losing 5 of their last 6 games, and we need to step back and ask why. And whenever we look at someone's record, context is everything. We need to look at who they beat and when. Out of their first 11 wins, I can only say 3 of them were actually impressive. The Titans win and both of the Ravens wins. I'm not going to count the Browns game because that falls into the when they played them category. The Browns were still figuring out who they were as a team and finished the season a completely different team, so they did have a lot of easy games to start off the year. And once the back quarter of their schedule came around, they started playing some playoff teams. Certain things I noticed throughout their season really started to show, and one of those things is almost in every statistical category imaginable that has to do with running the ball, they were dead last or really close to it. That's concerning for a few reasons. Teams that aren't able to run and pass the ball obviously become very one-dimensional no matter how you look at it. This is an advantage for the defense, and good coaches will take advantage of this, and directly has to do with the offensive line, and none of them were very good at run blocking. And without a generational talent at running back, they will continue to struggle, and we're going to circle back to that later. But I also saw a big difference this year in Big Ben with the velocity he was able to put on the ball, and if everyone wants to or wants me to take a dump on Big Ben, I'm just not going to do that. He was still able to have a good year, and he made the offensive line look very good. He knew the limitations with his arm and the protection, and that's why he was the fastest to get rid of the ball in the last 10 years of any quarterback, holding onto the ball for 2.1 seconds on average. So yes, Big Ben is on the decline. I think this will be his last season, but I have a feeling that defenses are going to start playing a lot of press coverage with a robber and send heat, making the ball come out quick with the pressure and force the receivers won't have much time to create separation, force deep throws and long passes outside the numbers. But that was all last year, so going back, the major flaws I saw with the Steelers were their run game, offensive line, and Big Ben's arm and mobility. But this is why the offseason and the NFL is so great, because there's always a huge turnaround year to year with which teams make the playoffs. Teams that are close and aggressive make the moves to become playoff teams, and teams that are complacent tend to get weeded out of the playoffs. And I can't really say I love the Steelers offseason at all. On the offensive line, Pouncey retired, and they traded Villanueva away and replaced him with a 3rd-round pick, a center out of Illinois. But what they did with their 1st-round pick slightly blew my mind. I love Najee Harris. I think he is head and shoulders the best running back in this draft class. That being said, the running back position is a dependent position. We see very, very good running backs look mediocre because of their offensive line. We saw Zeke had very good seasons and some bad seasons. And do you think it has more to do with Zeke or the decline of the offensive line that the Cowboys had? To me, they needed to address the run game, and they addressed the wrong side of it. I love Najee. I love the tight end they got out of Penn State that they drafted. But I think losing their linemen and not being aggressive getting high-tier guys, I think they only made sideways moves. And I don't know how much different things will be this year. Other teams like the Chiefs saw their line as a problem and addressed it aggressively. The Rams thought they needed a more dynamic quarterback, so they went out and did it. And I think the Steelers failed to make the sort of noticeable improvements to their glaring weaknesses. But to look at how the Steelers are going to do, we can't just look at the Steelers. We need to look inside their own division and look at their schedule as a whole. And oh boy, this is the main reason I think the Steelers are really in for it this year. The Browns had an amazing offseason and only got better as a team after beating the Steelers in the playoffs. The Ravens only got better too. They gave Lamar a lot of weapons on offense, and I think this will combat the stiff defenses that the Steelers and Browns have. The Bengals also got better. They have more weapons, they got more offensive linemen, and they will have Joe Burrow back. And this is the same Bengals team that beat the Steelers by 10 points in week 14 just last season. Don't be surprised if they can at least split with the Steelers this year. Now looking outside of their division, they have one of, if not the hardest schedules in all of the NFL. They have the Browns twice, the Ravens twice. They play the Titans, Chiefs, Bills, Seahawks, and Packers. And those are just the teams that I think they will be underdogs against. There are even more games on their schedule I think will be super competitive and close games. I'll throw the rest of the games now. I'll say it once, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million more times. The best teams and players are very good at adapting. The Steelers had some salary cap issues, but in the end weren't able to make the moves to make it any better, especially when they ended the season 1-5. Their draft with the names that they got were awesome, but they seemed very tone deaf with what they actually needed in the draft, and they should have gotten more linemen early that can help out in the run and the pass game, and then gotten a capable running back in the 3rd round. This and how much better the division got, combined with how insane their schedule is as a whole, if I was a betting man, I would not pick the Steelers to make the playoffs this year. But let me know what you guys think. I just think the Steelers have way too hard of a division this year. Their schedule is super insane, and they only made sideways moves. I don't think they got a ton better as a team. I know they lost some corners, they lost some linemen. I don't know what they did to like really replace them. I love Najee Harris, but I mean, at the running back position, I just don't think that's a position you should go out and get in the 1st round, especially when you have a huge need in offensive line. People want to trash on Big Ben. I think he did really, really good for the team last year. He's not the same guy. He's not the Big Ben we all grew up seeing, where he was able to run around in the pocket, be the sneaky leg, stand in there. He was getting rid of the ball quick, but it's because he had to. I literally think a lot of the things that the Steelers had was pinned on Big Ben. I don't think that's fair at all. But I just don't see, I think the last back half of their season was very more of what the Steelers actually were, a very, very reliant team on their defense. I just don't think that's going to get it done this year with what their schedule is looking like. But I want to know what you guys think, and make sure to like the video if you like videos like these. Make sure to comment down below what you think the Steelers' record's going to be, and if you agree or disagree if they're going to make the playoffs or not. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy daily sports content, and as always, I will see you guys tomorrow. You are so awesome. Take it easy. Peace.